In this class, we're going to look at how we construct tables in HTML. Tables are very useful for displaying certain kinds of data. Now here we have a table that shows some Premiership football teams. I've been using this example of a table now for a few years, so if you actually know your soccer, you could probably date this based on some of the teams that are there. Here we can see that this table structure is an ideal way to display this particular kind of information. So when we're talking about tables, we talk about rows and columns. Now, when we're coding a table in HTML, we do it on a row by row basis. Now, to describe a table in HTML, we use the table tag. So we must code the table row by row. So let's take a look here at the first row. This row has strip, team, nickname, and home in it. We mark the start of a row with the tr tag. And of course, like most tags, we must finish off the row with /tr. Now, each piece of data in the cell is marked with a td tag. So we have begin td, strip, /td. Now the next data cell has a team in it, so we have begin td, team, and then /td. For the next cell, we have td, nickname, /td. And then finally, we have td, home, /td. So this completes the first row of the table. Now we build up the table row by row by row. So to start a row, we use the tr tag, and of course, we must finish the row at the end with /tr. Okay, so to begin the first data cell here, we have td. Now this data cell just has an image in it, and its file name is ars.gif. So we have image space source equals ars.gif, and then to close off this data cell, we have /td. To mark off the next piece of data, we have td, arsenal, and then /td to close off the data cell. And then for the next data cell, we begin with td. Now the text here is in italics, so we have I for italics, the Gunners, and then we have /I to finish off the italics. Now even though there's no more text in this cell, we still must close off the italics with /I. It's not okay to just leave it out. And then to close off this data cell, we have /td. Finally, to mark off the last data cell in this row, we have td, Highbury, and /td. And of course, we have /tr at the end to mark the end of this row. So you can see that the table is built up row by row. So let's take a look at the next row. Here we have tr to start the row. Now, like the previous row, the first data cell here just has an image in it. So we have img space src equals ast.gif. And of course, we must close off this cell with /td. To mark off the next data cell, we have begin td, then we have Aston Villa, and /td to close it off. We begin td, and then we begin italics. We have the villains, and then /I to close off the italics, and /td to close off the data cell. And then finally for this row, we have td to begin the data cell, Villa Park, and then /td to end the data cell. And we finish off this row with /tr to close it off. The next row is the same. We begin the row with tr, and of course we have to end it later on with /tr. We mark the first data cell of the row with td, and then we have img source equals bla.gif, and then we close off that data cell with /td. We begin td, Blackburn Rovers, /td to close off the data cell. We start the next data cell with td. We begin italics, we have Rovers, /i to end italics, and then /td to end this data cell. We begin the next data cell with td, Ewood Park, and then /td to close it off. And of course we close off the row with /tr. The next row looks the same. We have the piece of kit, Bolton Wanderers, the Trotters, and the Reebok Stadium. And we keep going row by row. So we have the next row here. Again, the structure is the same as the previous rows with our TRs and TDs. We have the next row, and then finally the last row. So you can see that the table is built up here row by row by row. We have TR tags to mark the start and end of each row, and then the individual data cells inside the row are marked by TD tags. So looking at all of the HTML for the table, we see that it begins with a table tag and ends with a table tag. That table is made up of several rows, and each row is marked by a begin TR and end TR, and then each row is made up of data cells, and those data cells are marked with begin TD /TD. Now, the very first row of this table is not like the others. First of all, it looks different because there's no image in the first cell. But the data in this first row has a different meaning as well, because this row contains the headings. So it tells us that the first column is the strip, the next column is the team, the next column is the nickname, and then the last column is the home. Rather than modifying the style of the text in these cells, there is actually HTML we can use to mark off these cells as being headings. And that's useful because it allows the browser to apply a particular style to the text. And it's also useful for any computers that might be processing this information, because they can understand that these cells are actually headings and not content. If, for example, you needed to do a text-to-speech conversion of this table, you might find that specifically marking these cells as headings would help the program that's reading the text. So to make the cells in the first row headings, the HTML is the same as all the other rows, but instead of using TD tags, we use TH tags. The TH tags mark these cells as headings rather than normal data cells. A caption can be used to tell us what the table is about. So using the caption tag at the start of the table before the first row will allow the browser to put a caption on top of the table. Now, how this actually looks will depend on the browser and how the browser wants to do it. Now, this table here has 4 rows and 5 columns. So naturally enough, that gives us 20 cells. But it's actually possible to merge 2 cells together. So in row 2 here, we have Arsenal and the Gunners. It's possible to merge these 2 cells into one single larger cell. We do that using the colspan attribute of the TD tag. So you can see for this row here, we begin with TR just as we would any other row, and we have TD and the image tag /TD for the first data cell. However, inside in the TD tag for the second cell, we have colspan equals 2. And what this means is that this data cell will span across 2 columns instead of 1. If we had nothing there, it would be just the same as having colspan equals 1. When we say colspan equals 2, it spreads across 2 columns. And then finally in this row, we have TD Highbury /TD for the last cell. So this row now only has 3 cells, but one cell spans across 2 columns. So the row is still the same width. Now, in the last column here, the bottom 3 cells can be merged together into one larger cell. We do this using the row span attribute of the TD tag. So here for row 3, we begin with TR, we have TD to begin the first data cell, we have the image tag, and then we have /TD to close it off. We have TD to begin the next cell with Aston Villa, and then /TD to close it off. We have TD for the villains, and /TD to close it off. And then in the TD tag that begins the last cell, we have row span equals 3. This means that this cell is going to span across 3 rows. Then we have Villa Park and /TD. Row span can sometimes be a bit more confusing than col span, because the effects of the row span can also be seen in the HTML for subsequent rows. If we look here at the next row, you can see that it only has 3 cells instead of 4. The last cell of the previous row has expanded into its territory, so it doesn't have a 4th cell. And similarly for the last row, it only has 3 cells. The last slot is missing.